Okay, don't say anything embarrassing. Don't say anything embarrassing. It's never going away. I'm just kidding. I think I've built an entire career on saying things that are embarrassing. So let's just keep the ball rolling.
All right. So Jasmine says she promises to edit out the embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, leave it in. Well, I'll tug my ear if it's like something extra bad. Like if I'm like really take that out. Starting rapidly tugging my ear.
All right. So why don't you first tell us a little bit about yourself, Tessa, and how you got started writing?
Well, like I said, I live on Long Island. I have a husband. We've been married for 13 years and a daughter who's 9. And I'm originally from Southern California. I'm a California girl, but I hated it growing up. I thought it was terrible. I wanted to go and like live in the hustle and the bustle of New York City. So that was always the plan. And the second I graduated high school, the day after I graduated high school, I drove to New York City and should not have done that because I was woefully underprepared. And I'm actually just lucky to have landed in this career. I've like been reading romance novels since I was 14. I found them by mistake at like a family reunion with all the women in my family. And they were all like just wanting to watch Riverdance on TV and I had nothing to do. So I found a romance novel and it just became this obsession with me since I was 14. And about 8 or 9 years ago when Hurricane Sandy happened, my husband was out of work for 9 weeks because his bar got flooded. He's a bartender. And I was like, I need to do something for me because I had just been home with a newborn for a year, just, with no creative outlets or anything. So I locked myself in a room and I wrote a book called Protecting What's His. And that was my first book. So it just happened really quickly. I thought I would have to pitch people and contact editors for years before I ever got, hey Megan, before I ever got any luck, but it just happened really quickly overnight and I've just gotten so lucky. So I actually have my absolute dream job and I would not trade it for anything. It's a total joy. I love it. That's my about me.
That's so great. Now I have to ask, what were those romance novels? Which ones were you reading?
So, the first romance novel I ever read was Hidden Fires by Sandra Brown. And it was about takes place in California during the Gold Rush era. And it's like the hero's Jared and he thinks that his father is trying to like match him up with this girl and he like resists it at all costs because he hates his father, but then he like can't help it and he slowly falls for her. And there's like, it's like one of those historical, and it's one of those where that has all these like what the hell moments in it. They're so far-fetched, but you like live for them. Like all of a sudden the hero has a twin and they're like, in a duel. It's crazy. I read it like 75 times and probably that weekend alone, I read it 75 times. And these women, I was 14 and they had no idea what I was reading, and they probably would have had something to say about it. But then we went into town the weekend of that family reunion and like found a bookstore. And then I became obsessed with sea captains, historical novels with sea captain heroes. And so I just bought a bunch of those and then just blossomed from there.
So is that where you got the idea for this character?
Oh yeah, I didn't even put it together. Nice segue. Very well done. You know what? I've always like wanted to write sea captain heroes. It's such a romantic job, It's like it's like kind of like having a man who's in love with something else, but it's like a safe way of doing it. He's in love with the ocean. The ocean owns his heart and you'll never get it. And he's unattainable. but you know, like it's not a woman, so it's okay. Like it's, you know, it's tolerable. So there's just something that's always been really romantic about the ocean to me, and like a man's kind of like pull towards the ocean, and the way that he can it's just like a real salt of the earth profession. And I've always loved blue collar heroes. That's kind of my bread and butter. I love them. So I guess I'm going back to my roots.
That's great. So it looks like we have a lot of, of your fans, your readers here. I personally started with Fix Her Up, and read that whole series. You are definitely a favorite among the staff at our library.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think Jasmine pretty much introduced all of us to your books, and we love her for it because
thank you, Jasmine.
we love you so much. And I think your like tagline, like heat, laughter, and happily ever after, is so perfect. It definitely is what your books represent.
Thank you.
That's so funny.
Yeah, you know, there's got to be a good mix, you know, like I want those heart tugger moments, you know, like where you get the chest compression and you're like, oh God, like how are they going to work this out? Like I want that, but I also, you know, there has to be banter, you know, like I think when it comes to a good romance, I want to hear them. I want to know they're going to have like something to talk about for the rest of their lives, and it's going to be easy, and they're going to have each other's sense of humor and understand each other's sense of humor and kind of like have the same, you know, like have a rhythm to the way they talk to each other.
Right.
To me, that's like, that makes it realistic more than almost anything, is the fact that they can talk to each other like that. So I think if a book has good dialogue, that's what's selling me on it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably where I really spend a lot of my focus. Snappy dialogue and sex. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. I can hear how Jasmine recommended my books. I can hear it. She's like the dirty talk.
Yeah. we like to call those books spicy, or like the, you know, when we're like describing them, like these are spicy.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the term I would use. I just like, there's something about that, like also just the rhythm of the bodies, you know, like it has just that flow of just the ease into the physical, and just it being such a seamless also is something I really try to make realistic. You know, like I want them to be so attracted to each other that they are just constantly wanting to touch each other and just be near each other, and like, you know, like that breathless feeling. I mean, that's why I read this stuff, you know, I want that. I want to believe in that, you know, that's real. So yeah, I saw Joy, by the way. Hi, Joy. She's like a long time. She's been probably reading me since day one. I want to say like 8 or 9 years ago. I actually don't know how long I've been doing this. I'm like, it's 8 or 9 years. I'll be saying that for 10 years. I'll be like 8 or 9. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Great. Well, do we want to open it up to questions to other people in the group? If anybody have any questions, you guys can write them in the chat.
Yes, ask me anything. I'm an open book. Nothing is going to embarrass me. If you, really honestly can ask me anything. I won't be offended or scandalized, I promise.
So we have a first one. How long does it take you to write a book?
So it depends. It really depends. If it's it happened one summer. This book is the longest book I've ever written. I mean, I wouldn't say it's any longer than like a typical romantic comedy that you read, but it's it's over 100,000 words. So that was like a pandemic baby. And I just went into like it was the quickest I've ever written words in my life, and somehow wrote the longest book. So that took me, I think, between 6 and 8 weeks. But I feel like normally that would take 8 to 10, maybe a little bit longer. Okay. But if you throw in the time it took like revising it and editing it, that's an additional month, you know, I would say on top of that, because we do a ton of editing. Especially on a story of that length, like when you start breaking it down by chapter and, you know, beats and dialogue and everything, it takes a while. So that one, yeah, I would say the average book takes me 6 weeks, you know, because once I start it, that's it. It's like, I am in it. I don't take breaks. It's an everyday affair. I have to get the next scene written. I have to get these thoughts out of my head, and I'm constantly thinking of dialogue, and I'm constantly thinking of like new twists on the scene. So I just have to get it out, you know, before it goes away. Cause, you know, I'm like, as an author, I'm just like shiny objects, like, you know, I will start to write another book if I don't keep writing this one. So, that's probably one of the fastest I've ever written anything at that length, but definitely, I just have to keep going once I have it, so it stays, so I can keep the flavor of it and keep the feeling of it going.
Okay. So do you write yourself or people you know in your character?
I feel like sometimes the heroines have little bits of me, you know. Bethany from Tools of Engagement is, if anybody's read that, she's very like conscious of the way people perceive her, you know, and she's constantly thinking about like, what are people thinking of me, and am I working hard enough, and you know, and I think that's definitely something I struggle with. So that was like really cathartic to write that, because you know, she's just constantly, she's not thinking about how she feels about herself and how, if she's proud of herself or if like she's happy in a situation. It's just, what's everybody thinking of me and what I'm doing, and is it good enough, and does it look good enough? And I think that's like probably across the board, all women, to be honest, you know, like we're expected to be perfect at all times and to have every single thing in its place and make it look effortless. And so that's completely unrealistic. And so it was nice to watch her realize that throughout the book and kind of like be okay with herself and forgive herself. So now I just have to do that. I didn't go through that. Yeah, it had bits in me, and then it didn't have the resolution, which sucks. But yeah, and then heroes, no, they're never like anybody I've ever met, because they're they're perfect, they're wonderful. Right. So yeah, I mean, you know, there's like little qualities probably that my husband has for sure. You know, my husband's a very generous person, and he's very thoughtful. Like he's always thinking about the comfort of other people. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's mainly just fantasy. You know, when it comes to the heroes, they have fantasy qualities that I think I would like to see, or that I think that men should have. So not so much about people I know, but I do have a sea captain in the family. I do, like going back like three or four generations, I had a tugboat captain in the family. So maybe I'm drawing from some history here and there.
That's fun. All right. So what authors have been firing up your romance hearts?
Lately?
Yes.
Ooh, I just read A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria over the weekend. It's the first, so it's the second one in the series. The first one was, oh gosh, You Had Me at Ola.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And the second one was like fire. Like I was like, because I read You Had Me at Ola, and that was a really great book, but it didn't start off like with a bang like this one did.
Okay.
It was more of a slow getting like slow burn. But this one, it's like childhood friends who like the last time they saw each other, they almost hooked up. And then like they get back together as adults to like work on a work project together. And they're like still like, we need to finish what we started. Like, I mean, 13 years later, and it's very intense and hot.
Wow.
It's a really good book. She's super talented.
Okay.
Who else have I been reading? I read The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, which was just swoon city. I absolutely loved it. Loved the heroine a lot. Who else have I been reading? I read The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danan. That series is like rocking my world. I just love how unique it is. It's
okay.
Yeah. Did you read what was the first one?
I did not
The Roommate?
one. Jasmine read the first one, I believe. But we did have like a very long conversation about the intimacy experiment, because I was just like, I read the description and I was like, they really made this into a book?
Yeah, she really did it.
But it seems to be like very popular. Everybody really likes it from what I understand.
Yeah, well, I think what's so cool about it is like, I don't know, maybe I'm just in a place where I just want to read something that's like hasn't been written before.
Right.
And this definitely has it. So, I'm really enjoying it. I think she's really just like she's got a new voice. She's got a really new, unique voice that I like and I appreciate. But other than that, I'm always waiting for the next Mariana Zapata book to release. She's probably my favorite. I love Kerrigan Byrne for historicals.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, I think next up I have some Rachel Hawkins. I'm going to read The Wife Upstairs.
Okay.
Have you read that one? I'm really excited about it. It's supposed to be like kind of like a modern, like a funny, witchy Bronte novel, like modern Bronte.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but that one is also getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah. So I got a lot on my plate. There's not enough hours in the day to read everything I want to read.
Too many books, too little time.
Exactly.
All right. What is your favorite trope to read? Is it like, I guess like romance trope?
My favorite romance trope. I mean, it's just like depends on which day of the week it is, like it just depends, how I like what I'm in the mood for. I always want to read something that's forbidden. I know I'm always like, oh, they're not supposed to be together? Why? Tell me more. Whether it's like best friend's little sister or, it's an across the tracks situation where like her dad's forbidden her from seeing him, or I just love anything like that where they're not allowed to be together, I think.
Okay.
But they were willing to risk it all to like meet in secret. That's so romantic to me. But it's weird, like other days I'll be like, I want to read a really nice friends to lovers slow burn. Which is the absolute opposite of that. So like that's one I will always go to, like I'll always go to like Sally Thorne or Mariana Zapata for because I want to read something that's like, has like a lot of culmination before that, the big moment. Right. The endorphin rush.
All right. So the next question is, their husband just read Fix Her Up and he loved it. And he's not here, but he wanted to ask, are you a Ramona Quimby fan? Because Georgie, as the family pest, reminded him of a grown-up Ramona.
Is that from the children's books?
Yes.
I mean, I didn't put that together until just now. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like a huge Ramona Quimby fan, but it's definitely in my subconscious somewhere. That's flattering to me, though. I think I'll take that as a real big compliment. And how cool that husbands are reading Fix Her Up. I like that. Yeah. So I want to know more about that situation. Do they like read chapter for chapter and discuss it, or like, yeah, what does it do for the, like, what's the, I want to know, like, what's it like when your husband's reading romance novels?
I think she read it and then told him he should, well, not had to, but should read it, that he would like it, maybe.
And how disappointing that his only takeaway was that the heroine reminded him of Ramona. No, that's not the part I wanted you to pay. Okay, whatever. I give up. No, you didn't read page 45 with the tongue thing? No? Okay. Husbands, real selective learners.
Oh my goodness. All right. This question is, can you explain book talks for those of us that don't use TikTok? It says, I know you use it.
I'm just dipping my toe into the world of book talk, and it's like a whole other planet. I mean, which I feel like TikTok in general is just it's a different planet. And I love it. My daughter and I had a really tough winter. Not to bring down the mood, but my husband was in ICU for 3 months with COVID and like really almost did not make it out alive. And that was how we coped, is we sat down and we just kind of disappeared into this TikTok world. And you can kind of like curate what you see on your screen. Like, it's not what people think it is. It's not all just dancing teenagers in belly shirts, which is fine. It's fine if that's what your teenager wants to do. Nothing wrong with that. Now, yeah, like, so I've kind of like gone down this rabbit hole of like what, there's like cleaning TikTok, there's pool cleaning TikTok. There's, my daughter's a diabetic, so there's diabetes TikTok, which helps her relate to other people who have diabetes. It's like, it really is like a miracle. And people on Book Talk are just like getting, like, if you look at the charts on Amazon right now, Ruby Dixon's Ice Planet Barbarians is #1 in the whole goddamn Kindle store. And that book came out, I don't know, 10, 12 years. I don't know. It's been out for a long time, but it's something that happened on Book Talk that boosted this book. The #1 on Amazon. And it's just because people want book recommendations. And it's a really effective way of doing it. It's a really interesting way of doing it with music and graphics and book covers. It's like, and it's short. So it's like under 60 seconds. So, it's kind of instant gratification. I don't know. It's definitely taking off. I don't think it's going anywhere. So get in there and check it out. Yeah.
TikTok is a good time.
#spicy book rec. I think that's what I would search if I was you. #spicy books. Yeah. There's so many. I'm like, the second you get like used to a hashtag, you have to start getting, you have to find the new ones. So.
Right. How much research went into writing It Happened One Summer?
Well, I watched a lot of Deadliest Catch. No. So the hero, that's not a lie. I watch a lot of Deadliest Catch. But that's not the only research I did. Unfortunately, I thought I could do the whole book by just watching the show, but no, there's a lot of details that they don't cover. Yeah, I mean, I had to know a lot about the seasons. I had to know a lot about what kind of fish and what kind of, because they obviously can't do king crab all year round, right? So they're king crab fishermen in the book. I had to know what all the equipment's called, and I had to know, like routes and what the process is for dropping pots and pulling them in, you know, because there's like a lot that goes into it that you don't realize. And I kind of needed to know like the mortality, the dangers of you know, losing your life in these situations, which is extremely high. I mean, it's actually the deadliest profession in the United States. King crab fishing. Yeah. They lose people every season. So, which is romantic in a way, I guess, you know, because, you know, there's something that is kind of like a draw when the hero has this dangerous profession where his life is at risk every day. And I think that's why I landed on it, because I really wanted to, I wanted that to be a plot point of this woman being like, I don't know if I want to be with someone who could be, you know, like risking their life every single time they leave the house. Right. Yeah, as far as research though, I did a ton, but I also did watch a lot of Deadliest Catch, because there is something, you know, like there's a mood that you get into when you watch that show over and over again, and you hear their vernacular, like the way they speak to each other, and you know, like the slang, you know, you kind of get the slang in the back of your head and you need it when you're writing. So I was watching it constantly while I was writing the book, just old episodes, new episodes. They're battling the Russians now. That's really like they're battling the Russians now for the Bering Sea. So that's really interesting. Yeah. It's a ton of research went into it, but you know, like interesting. It's very interesting. So I didn't mind it at all. It was a lot better than researching construction for the Hot and Hammered series. I was like, can I just wing it? I was like, they're just hammering wood together. Like, I have to know the term. Like, I have to know. But this was actually a lot more, you know, like it was uncharted territories for no, you know, pun intended.
So this question says, how many books are you booked out for? We always need more Tessa. So I guess that means like how, like, have you already started your next book?
Yeah. So the follow-up to It Happened One Summer is already written, actually. It's done. It's in copy edits right now, which means like we've gone through the hard part of like the major edits and revisions. And now there's just somebody kind of going through it to find typos and timeline mistakes and things like that. So, or they'll be like, oh, her hand was already on her butt in the last paragraph, so it can't be on her boob now. Things like that is what they find in copy edits. So yeah, it's actually up for pre-order. So I think I can say the title. It's going to be called Hook, Line, and Sinker. And you meet the characters that book will involve. You meet them in It Happened One Summer. Okay. So I don't want to like say who it is, but I think it'll be pretty obvious once people read it who it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like reformed Playboy. It's like forced proximity. It's friends to lovers. It's like, and my editor like loved it, so that's always a good sign. You know, sometimes like I will detect that her enthusiasm is forced, but I don't think it was with this one. Yeah. So that one's written, and I've kind of like been playing with the idea of writing a Christmas book, like to self-publish. So yeah, I kind of like I can kind of do what I want, you know. I'm a little free right now.
That's good. Jasmine's very excited. I don't know if you can see her face, but
I can.
There's another person. I see a lot of people very excited. They want this.
Okay. So. Yeah. Okay. Christmas book it is. I'm going for it. I'm going to write it during the summer. So I'm like taken way out of the mood. But I don't think I've written a book that like took place during Christmas time. Mm-hmm. But never one that was like completely just about the Christmas holiday, you know? So I'm going to do that. I think it's going to be fun. And I'm going to have some fun with it. I have an idea already.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Thank you. You too.
All right. The next question is, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
So a plotter would be like someone who, you know, plans out every detail before they even start writing and just kind of has everything, you know, like knows exactly what's going to happen in each chapter and nothing ever deviates from that plan. And I'm the other thing, which is a pantser. I go into it with a plan and I never end up sticking with that plan. It's weird. It's like once I meet the characters, it's like the way I thought they were going to be or the way I thought they were going to act or behave in certain situations, it's never accurate. It's like once I meet them and see them interacting with each other, the plan always changes. And I'm like, oh no, yeah, no, I don't think, I think I have to like put them in a different situation, or I have to like, I now that I know what this character's motivation is, I have to put them in it. I have to send them on a different journey. So, because sometimes like your character's motivation isn't obvious to you immediately. You know, you kind of get it somewhere down the line, like when they're having difficulty or they're in their dark moment. And you're like, that's why they're unable to be with the heroine, or that's why they're so messed up. It's because of this. And then you have to go back to the beginning. That's why it's frustrating to be a pantser, because like you know, you get to the end and then you're like, okay, now just got to go back to the start and rewrite it. And it happens every time. I can't avoid it. But I do like to allow for spontaneity, and I do like to, you know, allow for my characters to have like growth that I didn't see coming. So, you know, I would change it. I don't think I could change it after 50 books or however many there's been. But yeah, one of these days I will write a book that's been planned out better, that I don't have to go back and tweak from the very first page.
I think maybe whatever you're doing is working. So
look,
fine.
I get it done. I get it done by the deadline. That's all that matters. No matter how many boxes of tissues I have to go through crying to get there.
So another question is, if any of your books were made into movies, do you have a dream
cast? Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to cast heroes for me because they just look like someone in my head that isn't real. You know, like there's nobody that matches the heroes in my head. But you know, if It Happened One Summer was made into a movie, a lot of people already know this, but the heroine is based on Alexis from the TV show Schitt's Creek. She's inspired by Alexis, and so Annie Murphy would obviously have to play Piper. That would be my dream heroine. Would be, you know, Annie Murphy, because her comic timing and her mannerisms are like what I see with Piper.
Right.
Gosh, I don't know if you guys, so if you've read It Happened One Summer, there's a secondary character named Fox, who is kind of like the playboy best friend of the hero. And that is the character that I've cast in my head as Tyler Cameron, who I don't know, I think he's been on The Bachelorette or one of these TV shows, but now I just follow him because of how he looks. So I don't know what he's actually done. I follow him on Instagram and because I want to see what he's eating and what milkshake and things like that, what protein shake he's drinking, like I care. But Tyler Cameron for Fox, I don't know. I'm like, I see them in my head as, yeah, he's a dreamboat. That's right, Crystal. You guys go check him out. It's just the way he looks and his like expressions and his like complete, like, you know, just, he's just getting whatever he wants, you know, because of the way he looks. And that's what I wanted for that character, obviously, so I can knock him on his ass. Yeah, no, I mean, I have like kind of ideas in my head of what I want my characters to look like, but they very rarely match. They very rarely seem to match up with like famous actresses or actors. Although in Fix Her Up, Travis was inspired by Dansby Swanson from the Atlanta Braves. So
Oh, okay.
Jasmine's Googling him. Yeah, Dansby Swanson. And then the girl who played Supergirl was who I pictured for Georgie. Whose name I can't think of her name right now, but she played Supergirl. So yeah, no, you're when you Googled it, your like face, like the glow on your face changed. So I knew it was happening, Jasmine. That's okay. I support it.
So how do you feel about one of your books becoming a movie? Is that something that you'd like to see happen?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be every author's dream, you know, to have their book made into a movie. I think I'd be really worried that it would be made into a bad movie. That would really worry me. Because we know that can happen.
Yes.
I'd like to see it made into a good movie for sure. And I've, like every once in a while, my agent will be like, oh, somebody emailed me about reading the manuscript and wanting to see about optioning it. But then I think that happens a lot to a lot of authors. And I think that even sometimes when your book gets optioned, like that's it. You never hear anything else about it. So it's like one of these lottery winner things, where like, who's going to be the next Bridgerton? Who's going to be the next To All the Boys I've Loved Before? We just don't know who it's going to be. And to be honest, I think it could be so many of us. Because like, I think there are people out there writing fantastic romance novels. And they're published like weekly now.
Yeah.
I mean, there are good romance novels being published constantly. And so it really could just be anybody at any time. And it would be a worthy choice for whoever decided to do it. And so I'm happy. I'm just happy when I see it happen to someone that's in my genre, because it's like, yeah, like it's being recognized. And it's not Nicholas Sparks. It's someone else. And it's like, it just makes me really happy to see people wanting it, and for people to be realizing that like women in our age group who read this genre are like very capable of saying, this is exactly what we wanted, thank you, and we're going to spend a bunch of money on it. So, and they're recognizing it. So that's really, really encouraging. And I hope that more and more of my peers get optioned for movies and stuff. And if it happens to me, I'll be stoked. So, who knows, someday.
Yeah, I think it could definitely happen. I feel like romance is having a bit of a moment right now on TV, and they're definitely pulling from books these days. Somebody, like said, like we're in like a golden age of TV, and I was like, all the TV shows are based on books right now. So are we in a golden age of like writing, or books are really good? It could happen.
I mean, it's really exciting to see things that were written for women by women, especially getting taken seriously. I think that's what's so exciting about it and so cool. And the fact that they're based on books, that well-read books, and people are kind of discovering the books through things that are on TV, and maybe going and reading more. That's cool, it's like right on.
All right. Do you have a hero and heroine that you hold close to your heart that you've written, and why?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a few though, like there's a few. I would say like from my first series, because it was my first books, that I got so close to those characters, and then like I actually like went on and wrote fan fiction for those characters for like years to come to share with readers. So like their stories like went way beyond the end of the book into like they got married, and now they have children, and now they're adopting children, and like I wrote it for just like readers of mine. And so those became like, those characters became family to me. So everybody from the Line of Duty series, all those characters, Brent, Matt, Derek, Troy, and Matt. Did I already say Matt? Yeah, and Daniel. They all became like really close friends of mine, I feel like, and all the heroines as well. I could pull their voice, and I could write from their voice like right now, even after it's been like 35, 40 books. I could write in the voice of any of those characters from that first series at the drop of a hat. And I don't think that's like pretty rare, you know, like for me, like just for me, because I couldn't do that I couldn't say that about all of my books. But I also love a character named Duke very much from the book Worked Up.
Okay.
He's Pouty Man Bear mechanic, which is what I like to call plus size men. I love plus size men in my books. I like them with meat on their bones, and I like them grumpy. So that's where that's Duke from Worked Up. And I love a character named Marcus very much from a book called Heat Stroke, which is a male romance. And he's just kind of like a goofy CrossFit enthusiast who's straight, or he thinks he's straight, but he's in love with an openly gay character named Jamie, and he just follows him around like a puppy dog. And it's one of my favorite stories. So there's quite a few. Bowen from Risking It All, and Sarah, his heroine, are two of my favorites. I have a lot, you know. I'm like really getting nostalgic just thinking about them all. I really do. I think if anything, you know, what I want people to take away from my books is I want them to know the characters and to remember the characters afterwards, you know? Yeah. It's like, yes, I want a good plot, and yes, I want good story, and I want good arc and things like that. But I really just want you to remember the characters, I think, out of anything. So if I can get readers to do that, that's a win for me.
Yeah, I definitely think your books are character driven.
Yeah,
they're very memorable.
Thanks.
So another question is, do you plan on writing any more paranormal vampire romances?
Not at the moment. But I would never say no, you know, like I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool to step out of my comfort zone and write with a whole different set of rules, you know. That's kind of what paranormal romance is like. You're in a different world now, and you can't fall back on real world rules. You have to like create your strict set, and then you have to stick to it like really closely. And there can't be any deviating, and there's no changing them once you have them, no matter how inconvenient it is for your plot of the next book. But yeah, so that was the Phenomenal Fate series. And, you know, I had this kind of vision in my head of the opening scene from the first book, which was a vampire waking up in a mortuary about to be embalmed. Because the girl thinks he's dead, and obviously he's not. So he like wakes up, and his friends actually, they've pranked him, and they've put him there as a joke, you know. And so I was like, I guess I'm gonna write a paranormal rom-com, because that's, so I kind of wanted it to have the tone of Pushing Daisies, if you guys remember that show.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I went for with that series, was kind of like dark comedy, and that's kind of my personality. So it was a nice fit. Yeah, nothing planned for the moment for any more of that, but you know, I would definitely not rule it out for the future.
Well, now I've just added those books to my list. All right. Jasmine wants to know, did you always know you were going to be a writer? If you weren't a writer, what might your job have been?
Well, I used to go up on my roof when I was growing up and like very dramatically write poetry. So I think I always knew I wanted to be a writer, just for the drama. Like I would just go up on my roof and I'd be like, you know, and I would like write really serious poetry and like in my notebook. And I think I always had it in my head, and then my dad would like hype me up. He would like hype me up and tell me my poems were really good. And so I think he gave me this confidence that like I might be able to do it someday. But then it kind of just like the dream, you know, as you get older, everything seems like a dream. You know, like when you're younger, you think, oh, I could be anything I want. And then you get older and you're like, oh, I can't be anything I want. Like everybody else is too good at it. So, you know, I think I always wanted to try to write a romance novel and see how it went. And then I got lucky. That's how I look at it. I really just think that there's talented romance authors out there that'll never be published and we'll never hear about them. And there's some that are writing that don't sell. And I just kind of happened to, you know, get into this genre right before it got really saturated with a lot of people and a lot of writers and a lot of, you know, and so I think I happened to just, it's like timing and opportunity and things like that. So I'm lucky that I get to do this as a job. I don't know what I would be doing otherwise. I really don't, you know, I was really a slacker before this. I was really, really just, you know, living for, you know, going to bed. So, I guess not that much has changed. No, but I don't know what I would be doing. You know, I would be doing something because I have a 9-year-old that I like really want to make proud of me. So I think that's why I do this and I do it so consistently, but I'm not sure. Hopefully something creative is what I would be doing.
All right. Do you ever cringe writing a spicy moment and think of how your family will react?
Never. Actually, so whenever I'm asked what would be your one piece of advice for an aspiring romance author, I always say, write like your mom isn't going to read it. Do not write for your mom. Your mom is, you know, like this is not your audience.
Right.
You know, if it turns you on, it's going to turn somebody else on. And I would say one of my, you know, I would say my main talent is being able to turn everything off when I'm writing a scene like that, a spicy scene, and just be in it, you know, and it helps that I think about sex probably 24 hours a day. So that helps a lot. It's never far from my mind. So, you know, I can just get into it. And then it, you know, like, I also really want to further the emotional plot of the story in those scenes. And so they can get really emotional. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like I can stop in the middle of one and come back to it the next day. It really has to be like a fluid movement between thought to touch to, you know, like barriers coming down. And yes, there's the dirty talk, because I love it when a hero is just like nakedly honest, you know, like this, like there's no filter. He's just saying exactly what's on his mind, because I think that's so rare these days with men, you know, like I don't want to have to hunt what you're thinking down. Just tell me, you know. Right. I don't want to have to have a guessing game about what you think of me or what my body looks like. Just tell me. I'd like you to say it. So I think that's where that comes from, is kind of like, I think it would be intoxicating to just have a man just be really honest like that. So I think that's where that dirty talk comes from, is just my own fantasy, I guess, for honest men. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't even know if I answered that question. Sorry. It was probably, the answer was some buried in there somewhere.
The answer was there. You answered it. Okay. All right. Someone says, I think we need to start a Tessa Bailey Needs a Movie fan group.
Yes, I'll be the president.
Yes. I think we'll all be in it. I think
it's one of those things where it's like a watched kettle never boils, where I'm like, if I just keep thinking about somebody making one of my books into a movie, it'll never happen. But if I just pretend like I don't care, then maybe someone will do it. So that's my current strategy, is just feigning indifference about the whole thing. It's like, oh, you want to make my book into a movie? Fine, I don't care. Let's do it, I guess.
All right, so let's see. Jasmine is asking, because she is the teen librarian, would you ever write YA? She says she distinctly remembers Georgie being so relatable for a young woman, but maybe not so much spice for the young readers.
Yeah, that's, I guess, the one drawback, is that my brand is so like kind of braided together with like, you know, spice, that you know, then again, like I don't know. I think like there's room for both in somebody's catalog. Like you could write spicy stuff, and you can also, like Christina Lauren, you know, like they're able to write both. They're able to write books with spice and books without. And YA pen name, yes. Oh, now I'm gonna spend all night thinking of one. Rainbow Rowell. Okay, is that a good one? No. Everyone buy my books. So I think I could. And I really think, because I have a 9-year-old, and because she's 9 going on 16 already, that I feel like I'm so, like, I'm just kind of like neck and neck with that age group right now, that I'm kind of fascinated by it, to be honest. And I think that's part of the TikTok obsession, is I love that generation. Like I love Generation Z. I think they're funny. I think they laugh at themselves. I think they talk about mental health with such like regularity. And I think they're great. And like, I think they get a bad rap for being always on the internet and things like that. And like, we've actually just handed them those tools and then been like, oh, why are you using them? So I really like that generation. And I would like to write about them. You know, I don't think I've considered it until just now when somebody asked me. But I would totally do it. I really would. No other reason than to write a book that my daughter can actually read from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great reason.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Maybe I'll do that.
All right. So we're getting close to 8 o'clock. We're going to try and wrap it up around, 8. So if anybody has any last questions, let's get them in here. But I do have one question, and I want to know what inspired the Just Us lead in Fix Her Up. Is that a real thing? Can we start it if it's
I know. I know. Can you imagine just like having a big girls club to go to every night or once a week, and everybody just BYOBs and just like bitches and encourages each other as well at the same time? I mean, that sounds outstanding.
Yes.
Especially now, like when everybody's been isolated and needs like a boost back into like reality. No, it really didn't come from anywhere real. I just had this, like, I get scenes in my head, and then like I will write an entire series around one scene. Where the original idea was 3 women getting stuck in an exercise room together, and realizing that they are all having a terrible day, and B, all of those problems stem from men. And so they decide, like, we're swearing off men. That's it. Like, we're done. And then, of course, that's when A, one of them falls in love, B, the husband comes around, and C, the friend all of a sudden wants to be the lover, right? So I kind of like, it was like a timing thing where like these women are basically decide they're done with men right with as the men start to like realize that they need to do better. So and I think that really came from the fact that I love writing grovel scenes. I was like, I just want to write groveling all the time. You know, I think that's what like romance is. Like, I think it's us wanting to watch men suffer. I think like, you know, that's really what it comes down to. So yeah, it didn't come from anywhere real, but I wish it did. I really do wish it was a real thing. It has to be real somewhere. Like there has to be
I want it to exist and I want to join it.
Me too. I know. I would be there. I'd be co-president with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right. There's a thank you. A thank you for Tessa for being a gateway to romance, and Jasmine for being the librarian to recommend you.
Oh, that's so cool. Yay, a gateway to romance. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. That's so exciting. You know, I think that's pretty rare for me to be like the first romance novel. So that's a badge of honor. I'll wear that proudly. Thank you.
Let's see. How are you able to write? It says MM, but I'm guessing men so well.
Male.
Oh, so male. Oh, yeah. Male. Yes, that's what that means.
Yes. Well, I mean, thank you for saying that I write it well. I think it's hard for a woman to write it because we obviously don't have firsthand experience. Well, we do. I guess we do with men, but like we've never like made love to a man in that way. This is getting away from me. That's got away from me fast. I think I really like writing male because it feels vulnerable to me. Mm-hmm. It feels like that this is something. The two books I've written, it's one character that's kind of in the closet and one who's not, and I think that's like it just lays groundwork for something really emotional and really beautiful to happen, and like a real self-acceptance to happen. And I think that's just human, like whether it's men or women, like that's a real human thing of going, oh, this is the person I love, and I have to overcome these things within myself to love them correctly and to be loved back correctly, and or our version of that. So I think it's just writing humans, and the mechanics of it, I have to do a little research on, and that's not a hardship. But like it basically just comes down to love, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Heat, laughter, and happily ever after.
Yes. The motto of the Justice League that we're going
to All right. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to keep you like too much longer. We don't have really any more questions, but we love you. You're lovely and so funny.
This was wonderful. Those were some really great questions. Thank you for everybody that came and asked me questions. They were great. I loved being here and answering them for you. And I hopefully, gave you some good recommendations, and yeah, whether for my books or someone else's.
Definitely.
And thank you so much for interviewing me, and Jasmine for doing the chat. And you guys are great. I'd come back anytime, please.
Oh, yeah. we will do that. We will have you back.
Absolutely. You're like, how's tomorrow?
Yes, and It Happens One Summer is available in July, right?
Yes, July 13th. And you can actually, I don't want to step on library toes, like check it out from the library. But if you do want a signed copy, you can order signed copies right now from Word Bookstore in Brooklyn. So Yeah, they're doing a pre-order campaign for me if you want to get a signed one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, Megan says she can't wait to read that Sea Captain.
Oh, I can't wait for her to read it. She's gonna love it. If that's Megan, or the Megan I think it is, she named one of her sons after one of my heroes. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the ultimate compliment.
Connor.
Yep, Connor. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's so great. This has been so fun. We will definitely have you back.
Thank you. I'll be here. I'll be here with bells on. Thanks for everybody watching.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. See
Bye.
you soon.